I came to the IT SMF today to talk with my colleague Ben Hewitt about how our capacity management function has reacted to changing times and the adoption of sort of managed solutions and services provided by third parties, really. My colleague Ben initially talked about our relationship with our infrastructure provider, so that's all kind of very much about building a capacity management service and reporting around hardware. And my part of the talk was the second part, which was really about kind of moving that on to dealing with software as a service providers and where there isn't actually any tin to look at. So there isn't any CPU to measure, there's no memory to think about, and just really talking about the difficulties and complexities of what you're just dealing with what's often described to you as a black box. When we first launched our new brand, we joined two companies together, and it was we had a very short period of time to basically build a new brand and new components to deliver new capabilities to our customers. And not surprisingly, it's a big rush, and you basically get lots of things in very quickly. And software as a service type solutions are very good for that because they're quick to deliver. And the big thing we've discovered is that, the big problem is that project managers and even the vendors, to some extent, initially turn around to you and say, don't worry about it. Don't worry about the infrastructure. That's our problem. That's our capital expenditure. It's a black box. And the black box kind of concept, so your initial reaction as a capacity manager is, okay, fine. It's not my problem. It's their problem. I'll go away and I'll think about something else. I've got plenty of other things to do. Over a period of time, you start finding that actually, your service management colleagues start finding these components increasingly troublesome because the end customer actually ends up being quite unhappy. Invariably, you end up having lots of problems in terms of response time, and in terms of individual bits of functionality failing or not working periodically. And you then find that the service managers then find that the contract that they've got drawn up with the supplier isn't very helpful. And that's mostly because all the SLAs are done in terms of availability. Availability sounds like a great measure. It sounds like it's very simple to measure. It's very simple to calculate. But actually, in reality, you often find that systems can be 100% available. They're always there. You can access the website or whatever it is. But often the thing just won't work very well. It'll be incredibly slow, or individual functionalities within it will fail. So in terms of availability, 100%. In terms of customer satisfaction, 0. And it's a bit of a nightmare. And as a net result, you have no real levers to work with your supplier and get them to help you resolve the problem. So as a net result of this, my peers in service management turned around to me and said, can you help us think about this? How can we resolve these problems? And that's partly down to changing the terms of the contract and writing better contractual clauses, isn't it? Based around actual response time. So actually building in the measures that your customers really care about when it comes down to it, the things that actually reflect their experience. The other side of it is really to also respect the fact that the software as a service component, although it is a black box and you don't care about what's inside it, there are inputs and outputs to it. So the inputs are the volumes of transactions or the amount of user concurrency that you've got, and invariably there'll be a contractual limit that's built into the relationship so that they'll guarantee the response times up to a certain level of transaction, a certain workload. And the outputs will also be your SLA measures, so your response times and availability measures. The point I'm trying to make about this is that actually capacity managers within this situation, the one thing they shouldn't do is really put their feet up. They should get involved, and they should certainly try and specify the requirements and make their voices heard, really, because in fact they're kind of perfect people, really, the perfect kind of skill set to work with these sorts of suppliers and help build an objective relationship with them, which allows you to actually help them understand when your demand on their system is going to increase, so that they can carry out a managed increase in their infrastructure and keep user experience good. And that's by using basic forecasting skills, and also help your own company in terms of assessing quality of service and governance by looking at their SLAs against the actual performance of their systems and how well their end user experience works. A big part of this is also introducing, I feel is quite necessary, is introducing something called an APM toolset. And that's a really clever piece of distributed software that allows you to basically measure the response times of any interaction in your IT estate, but broken down by each stage, by each system and bit of network that you're working with. And that's really important with third-party suppliers for dealing with what I call boundary disputes. And those are really where you turn around to your supplier and say, the experience is rubbish in this situation, it's very slow, and your supplier then turns around and says, well, you're going across the internet, and actually some of that's happening inside your data center. And you can only really chop that into pieces and say, actually, no, it's your end of the equation that's the problem if you've got something like an APM toolset. So that's part of our strategy, really, is we're going to be producing a richer relationship with our suppliers and also properly measuring everything, if you know what I mean, the whole journey, so that we can attribute, not blame, but sort of the issues to the right people, each of our individual vendors. So that's really the summary of what I've been talking about today.